Wanted to talk about something today that's been on my mind, and I'm not claiming to have any answers. This has to do with absolutism versus pragmatism. That's how it would commonly be labeled. And I think the place that we're going to start with this are values. If a person's value in our community, our voluntarist slash libertarian with a small L community, if our highest value is getting more people interested in liberty, in freedom, people who haven't even considered or they don't have as a high value this idea of being free. People who say, "Yeah, well, I don't mind having controls. I don't want any bad stuff happening." For those kinds of people, do we really want to get more of those people interested in libertarianism? Why? Like, do you really think that if we got another million or 10 million people interested in the concepts of liberty, whether it's liberty light, like the Libertarian Party, or constitutionalism, anything like that, where they think, well, just a little bit more liberty, do we really think the world is going to be better? Do we really think we can achieve this goal of getting another million or 10 million people involved? If we doubt that we can even achieve this goal, then I think that's going to make a difference in how we move forward. But whether or not you have this as a value, getting more people involved in libertarian thought, what would be another value that one might have? Another value might be being correct, always finding truth and seeking truth and really getting down to the nitty gritty of the truth. And this is kind of like I've given the example of an accountant. A CPA might want to get right down to the penny of what is true about a number, whereas the board of directors would just say, "Yeah, we'll just round it. It's just to give us an idea anyway. It doesn't have to be absolutely right. Yes, I know that we have to spend exactly this amount less per person to the penny to balance things, but yeah, we're not going to tell our employees that. They're not going to understand that. They don't have the I don't know, the intellect to understand and to remember and to calculate and to be disciplined enough to go down to the exact penny. So we're just going to give them the instructions, and they're not going to be perfect. We're just going to say, hey, instead of eating out at fancy restaurants, just eat out at, more medium, middle of the road places. Yeah, try to keep it under $50. And then the accountant says, well, no, 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 no. The numbers absolutely say $62.38 is the, and the board of directors says, no, we know there's going to be some wiggle room, some fudge, and they're going to fudge it a bit. It's going to be what it is. And we're just looking to get pretty close here. Well, that's kind of similar to the arguments that people like Ron Paul or the Libertarian Party or Dave Smith, that's kind of their argument is, hey, let's not be absolutely perfect here. We know what perfect is. Javier Milei talks about this. He says, yeah, well, absolutely. Anarcho-capitalism is the correct answer. That is, to the penny, the correct answer. And yes, it is not good to have any slavery. It's not good to have any rape. It's not good to tie up. He's not using these metaphors, I am. It's not good to tie up victims so that you can rape them later. But if they could either be tied up with a type of rope that chafes their skin horribly or one that's pretty comfortable, then I would prefer, if everything else was going to happen anyway, I'd rather have the gentler rope used. Well, then the absolutist says, well, wait a minute. If you're going to start talking about ropes and how much they chafe your victim's wrists, then you're essentially condoning, you're legitimizing this bad thing that's going to happen. And then the pragmatist says, well, no, I just know that the bad thing is going to happen. If I have this option, if I can just pick option B or A or D, and that option is nothing bad ever happens to anybody ever again, well, yeah, of course I'm going to select that. But I know that I don't have that option. I can't make that happen. And so how am I going to do more good in the world? Is me doing good in the world, going out and speaking to the choir over and over and over again, preaching to the choir and saying, no, rape is wrong. This is why we don't kidnap people either. We shouldn't be tying them up at all. Or should I say, hey, there's a little bit less injury being done to people, and therefore I'm going to say, yeah, okay, I do think cotton rope is better than nylon or whatever. I don't know. It seems like you're giving up a little bit of your soul, a little bit of your brain, if you would agree to that. On the other hand, I think there is a big difference between being asked the question, are you going to support candidate A? Let's say candidate A is a little bit less evil than candidate B. My answer is a voluntarist. And of course, voluntarists, we don't participate in electoral politics. That's part of being a voluntarist, is you don't get involved in the political game. And that's how I've identified for many, many years. So the voluntarist would say, we just don't get involved at all. So I'm not going to tell you if I'm not going to vote for candidate A or B, even if I know that A is slightly less bad than candidate B. The pragmatist might say, well, I'm going to vote for A because then at least it won't be quite as bad, but I'm going to loudly speak out that I don't think either of them should be in. Well, let me go back to the person like me, the voluntarist, who says, I'm not even going to vote for A. Well, what if a different question was posed? What if the question was posed, would you rather have candidate A, the less bad politician, or candidate B, the worse politician? Wouldn't it be better for you if A got elected? Absolutely. I can answer to that. Yes, I would much rather, if I was a slave, I would much rather be beaten less. If I'm a subject of a government, I would much rather be taxed less. Yeah, I would definitely prefer less. However, if I make a positive action, a positive step forward to support option A versus option B or any other option, then I am in fact legitimizing that happening. Okay, so I think there is a clear distinction in my mind between saying, well, yeah, I have a preference, but I'm not going to take action. I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to be a rope salesman for the cotton rope versus nylon and market to rapists and say, hey, use my rope, it hurts people less. I'm not going to participate in that horrible, awful, horrendous industry. I'm not going to be involved in that action. I'm going to step back and take the moral high ground and say, no, rape is always wrong. Government is always wrong. Bad things are always wrong. I don't involve myself in them. Yeah, I think that's a good place to land. Now, kind of a new, different, separate thing is, now that we've decided where we are going to stand, or I've decided where I am going to stand, at least until I reconsider things or get better information, now ask me, well, what about my neighbor? If my neighbor over there chooses to do something different than me, am I going to hate them? Am I going to condemn them, speak out against them? Yeah, I'll probably say, hey, man, I don't think you're on the right track. Am I going to stop having barbecues with them? Probably not, unless they're really, really bad. I do think there's a continuum. I think that it's less bad to I don't know, rape one person than to rape 100 people. I'm not going to eat with any rapists. I'm not going to go over to their barbecues and eat with them. No. But if there's somebody who votes and they have no intellectual understanding of what they're doing, they think they're doing the right thing, they have great intentionality, then yeah, I'll go have a barbecue with them. And I'll try to just say, hey, yeah, I don't vote. Oh, really? Why not? Then I'll have this conversation. If I start things out by saying, you are horrible because you do this, or you are wrong, and here are 18,000 pages of good writing, some good books that explain why this is true and why I've come to this conclusion. Well, they're not going to listen. They're going to dislike you. They're going to dislike your movement. I'm not going to go to this barbecue and say, hey, I think you guys are right. We should vote. No, I'm going to go and be an awesome neighbor and be likable and toss out some ideas that might bounce around in their brains for the next 6 months or 6 years until they say, hey, there's kind of a good point there. What was that one book, the most dangerous superstition, was it? I was like, yeah, I think I enjoyed it. You might want to read it. Hey, I've got an extra copy. You want to borrow it? I think that pragmatically, that's a good way to go. And I don't think I have violated my principles by going to this barbecue and chatting with these people and kind of proselytizing to them in a soft sale kind of way. Now let's take this a step further. One of probably the top 2 or 3 people in the world now in late 2024, the people who are closest to me in my conclusions on philosophy, moral philosophy, etc., is Patrick Smith of Anarchast. And Patrick Smith, he has stated, I found in one of his old videos, that kind of his mission is to go out and find people who are claiming to be libertarians and who are messing up in their ideas and to call them out and say, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to say that you, Mr. X, who is trying to convince everybody to vote for option A because they're less evil, that is wrong. Voting is wrong. You are wrong. And I will debate you. And I we're going to use strict rules of debate, and I'll show you what's up. And that is what he has chosen to do. And it's kind of like almost the internal affairs division of libertarianism, where he seeks out the rotten ones among us and then calls them out on it. And I'm not opposed to a person doing that. Like, I think that's valuable. However, I am concerned about the division that it creates. Well, do we really want to be united with people who are wrong? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not persuaded that Dave Smith and Ron Paul haven't been a net positive for libertarianism. Now, I'm not saying that we just ignore when they get things wrong. However, I wonder if there is a way, and this is what I'm struggling with because I'm a big Patrick fan, and yet I see him going up against folks and creating all kinds of truth and hate and discontent. And I wonder, where do I want to fall on this? Do I want to be that guy? Or does Patrick have that covered? And I'm grateful, and I don't want to be looked down on by everybody on the whole agency like the IA department is. Where should I fall on all of this? And I haven't really come to a conclusion yet. At the moment, I tend to say, Patrick, just like the CPA, he is absolutely correct to the penny. And I think that Dave Smith is very wrong about a bunch of stuff. Javier Milei is taking actions that are wrong, even though he knows the correct answer. And Javier Milei is not at every juncture saying to the portion of his country who is, let's say, low IQ, he's not sitting them down and explaining Austrian economics to them. No, he's just saying it ain't going to happen. So for right now, I can get a few points lower tax rate. That's what I'm going to go for now. It'll be a little bit better. And I am having trouble disagreeing that what he's doing isn't better than the alternative. Did I vote for Javier? No. Partially because I don't vote because I'm a voluntarist, and partially because I'm not a citizen of Argentina. But I'm really having trouble coming down on folks as hard as some people do because they're getting things wrong. And I get that it's not just a tiny thing when somebody votes to continue the Federal Reserve or gets elected and doesn't stop the Federal Reserve or central banking. I know that that's not a little thing. I know that that's theft. Like, the Federal Reserve is theft, the existence of it. And if a government person had the ability to shut it down, yeah, that would be the right move to make. Absolutely. No argument whatsoever. How much should I hate people who aren't getting things absolutely right? I don't know. What do you think? What stance do you choose to take? And do you think that there's room in the movement, if we can call it a movement, do you think there's room in the movement for the people who are completely digging deep and using science, using the absolute science of rational thinking, philosophy, the root hardcore science? Is there room for those people to exist? The Patrick Smiths and the Christian Moores. And then is there room to exist beside them, someone who's a little bit less absolutist, let's say Larkin Rose, and then somebody who is less absolutist, less and less and less, all the way down to the Dave Smiths or perhaps the David Friedmans, who say, well, yeah, that's the pragmatic or the ideal, but in truth, how is society really going to exist in that circumstance? So we have to. I'm getting mushy mouthed and mealy mouthed here. Maybe it's a Freudian thing because I'm discussing people who are kind of mealy mouthed and mushy mouthed or mushy thinking about libertarianism. I don't know, but is there room for all of us? And if I'm going to go out there today and put 10 minutes of effort into a video to put somebody down, should I pick somebody really bad like Gavin Newsom? Or should I pick somebody who is, of all the politicians in the world, they are in the top 3% of the least bad? Who should I pick to go and pick on today? And maybe the one argument is that, well, some of them are obvious. Like, it's obvious to any thinking person that Gavin Newsom is kind of a piece of junk, as George Bush, Donald Trump, etc. Those are easy targets. Where the biggest minds need to put their attention is not on the easy, the low-hanging fruit. We need to find the people who appear to really be on the right track, but are slightly wrong on some aspects or very wrong on some aspects, and call them out and put them down and start a fight with them. I don't know. There's an argument all the way around, and I don't know where I fall. I look forward to your comments. I want you to think about this as well if you're up for it. And I would sure love to continue this conversation because I think it's kind of a big deal in my life. Maybe it is for you too. And I don't have the correct answers. I look forward to thinking about it more and hearing your thoughts and going on with Patrick again on his channel and arguing and learning and debating and having a good old time there.